And now for something completely different.
I started a show full of fun and unintentional things. The whole show streaming on YouTube for thee. The whole show. The courts have compelled me to warn you. It's me you will see. Streaming and gaming and talking and fussing. The whole show. It's free.
Corvo, if only there was someone else I trusted to send, so that you could remain near. But there is no one else, and the Spy Master was right to insist that I send you. The plague has taken so many, and we must find a cure.
And we're about 5 minutes
you are
away
near,
from the start of
my heart
tonight's
is at peace.
January 6th hearing. But if you have to leave,
Emily and I
still
will
watch
count
it
the
live,
days
go to
until you
C-SPAN
return.
Now. This is our
Hurry
mobile
home
video app.
and bring good news.
Download it for free wherever you get your apps, and you can watch the hearing in its entirety.
Steady hand. That's it. Watch it. Cast off line. Casting off. We're away. Take us straight to Dunwall Tower. Lord Corvo has news for the Empress, and we've come a long way.
A long way to bring bad news. The sailors say there's a curse on us. Black magic.
Superstition. For all we know, there's a cure for the plague by now.
Maybe. We live in strange times. Sending the Empress's bodyguard away for a couple of months. That's unusual.
Well, this was important. We need help with the rat plague. Ho there! We're going up. Sealed. Ready. Turning on the pipes. And she's rising. Home at last. Steady pressure. And stop. Shut her down. The Empress will be waiting for your news, Corvo.
Fair voyage, sir? All quiet up here. The Empress will be in the pavilion when you're ready. Corvo, she's waiting. You should go see the Empress.
You know what to do next time?
Yes, yes.
Pressure was too low. All these new machines are touchy.
Just don't do anything crazy. Sokolov's changed everything again, and we don't know what the hydraulics can do now.
We've got him here today doing a portrait. If there's a time to try something, it's now.
There he is. Good
Well,
morning, sir.
after nearly a year of investigating the 2021 attack on the Capitol, tonight the
Welcome
House's
back,
January
Lord
6th
Protector.
committee holds a televised primetime hearing.
It's
It's
an
the
honor to
first in
see
a
you.
series of public hearings the committee is holding to
You were
present
lucky
its
to get away
findings.
for a bit.
So far, 3
Well,
hearings,
it's only
including
getting worse
tonight's, have been scheduled. The hearing will begin
Highest waterlock
in
in the
2
empire, they
minutes.
say.
But as a reminder, we
Sokolov
want to
filled
let
with
you know that the
hydraulics.
January
Runs
6th
like a
committee
dream
hearings
now.
and all C-SPAN programming is brought to you as a public service by these television companies, including Comcast, Charter Communications, and Cox. C-SPAN has 7 cameras in the caucus room, and they are the only ones in the caucus room tonight. C-SPAN is the only place for gavel-to-gavel coverage of Congress and congressional hearings, free from bias or commentary. Now, as a reminder, if you have to step away during the next 2 hours and you want to keep watching the hearing, go to C-SPAN Now, which is our mobile video app, and you can download it for free wherever you get your
Fewer
apps.
ships moving along the river now, with the plague and all.
She's waiting in the pavilion. She's ready for you, sir. She's not happy. She says to tell you to come at once.
Hello, sir.
Her Majesty is waiting in the pavilion.
The spy master is with her, but she'll want to see you
The
right
Select
away.
Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol will be in order. Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare the committee in recess at any point. Pursuant to House Deposition Authority Regulation 10, the chair announces the committee's approval to release the deposition material presented during tonight's hearing. Thanks to everyone watching tonight for sharing part of your evening to learn the facts and causes of the events leading up to and including the violent attack on January 6, 2021.
She's in the pavilion.
Our
sir.
democracy,
She'll be glad
electoral
to see that you're
system,
back.
and country. I'm Benny Thompson,
I hope
chairman
it's
of
good
the
news,
January
sir. Things
6,
are getting bad.
2021 committee. I
Good
was
to have you
born,
back,
raised, and still live in Bolton, Mississippi, a town with a population of 521, which is midway between Jackson and Vicksburg, Mississippi, and the Mississippi River. I'm from a part of the country where people justify the actions of slavery, the Ku Klux Klan,
I know she's
and
been worried,
lynching.
Lord Protector.
I'm reminded of that dark history as I hear voices today try and justify the actions of the insurrectionists on January 6, 2021. Over the next few weeks, hopefully you will get to know the other members, my colleagues up here, and me. We represent a diversity of communities from all over the United States, rural areas and cities, East Coast, West Coast, and the Heartland. All of us have one thing in common. We swore the same oath. That same oath that all members of Congress take upon taking office and afterwards every 2 years if they are reelected. We swore an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The words of the current oath taken by all of us that nearly every United States government employee takes have their roots in in the Civil War. Throughout our history, the United States has fought against foreign enemies to preserve our democracy, electoral system, and country. When the United States Capitol was stormed and burned in 1814, foreign enemies were responsible. Afterward, in 1862, when American citizens had taken up arms against this country, Congress adopted a new oath to help make sure no person who had supported the rebellion could hold a position for the trust. Therefore, congresspersons and United States federal government employees were required for the first time to swear an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That oath was put to test on January 6, 2021.
I'll count to 10.
Police officers who held the line that day honored their oath. Many came out of that day bloodied and broken. They still bear those wounds, visible and invisible. They did their duty. They repelled the mob and ended the occupation of the Capitol. They defended the Constitution against domestic enemies so that Congress could return, uphold our own oath, and count your votes to ensure the transfer of power, just as we've done for hundreds of years. But unlike in 1814, it was domestic enemies of the Constitution who stormed the Capitol and occupied the Capitol, who sought to thwart the will of the people, stop the transfer of power.
We should go now.
And so they did, so at the encouragement of the President of the United States. The President of the United States trying to stop the transfer of power, a precedent that had stood for 220 years, even as our democracy had faced its most difficult test.
Later, will you give me more climbing
Thinking
lessons?
back again to the
Someday I'm
Civil
going to
War
climb up to the rooftop.
in the summer of 1864, the President of the United States believed we would be doomed to bid his bid for re-election.
Stop moving,
He
Campbell.
believed his opponent,
Corvo,
General George McClellan,
Wherever you
would wave the white flag
They sent him
when it
all around the
came to
aisle
preserving
to
the
beg for
Union.
aid.
But even with
Waste
that
of
grim
time.
fate
My
hanging
elixir will
in the
banish
balance,
the plague from this
President
city.
Lincoln was
Now
ready
keep
to
still a
accept
moment, High
the will
Overseer
of the
Campbell.
voters, come what may.
I'm not so sure that
He made a
looks
quiet
like Campbell.
pledge. He wrote down the words, "This morning, as for some days past, it seems exceedingly probable that this administration will not be reelected. Then it will be my duty to so cooperate with the president-elect. It will be my duty." Lincoln sealed that memo and asked his cabinet secretaries to sign it sight unseen. He asked them to make the same commitment he did, to accept defeat, if indeed defeat was the will of the people, to uphold the rule of law, to do what every president who came before him did, and what every president who followed him would do.
I must reserve
Until
our
Donald
High
Trump.
Overseer for
Donald
future
Trump
generations
lost the
the
presidential
faithful to
election
marvel
in 2020. The American people voted him out of office. It was not because of a rigged
High
system.
Overseer is no
It was
beauty.
not because of voter fraud. Don't believe me? Hear what his former Attorney General had to say about it.
Shadow, but
I
still,
warn those who watching that this contains
this painting,
strong
I
language.
insult my own genius.
No,
Sure,
just
the
what
Empress is eager to see you.
I had three discussions with
Corvo.
the president that I can recall. One was on November
I do my
23rd,
duty for the
one was
realm,
on
but not
December
gladly.
1st, and one was on December 14th. And I've been through sort of the give and take of those discussions. And in that context, I made it clear I did not agree
It was a
with
fool's errand,
the
Corvo.
idea of
The
saying
plague
the
comes
election
from
was
inside.
stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bullshit.
High
And,
Overseer. No
you know, I didn't want to be a part of it, and that's one of the reasons that went into me
No
deciding
fancy
to leave when
elixir
I did.
design.
I observed, I I think it was on December 1st, that, you know, how can you can't live in a world where the incumbent administration stays in power based on its view, unsupported by specific evidence, that the election, that there was fraud in the election.
This plague has brought the faith.
Bill Barr, on Election Day 2020, he was the Attorney General of the United States, the top law enforcement official in the country, telling the president exactly what he thought about claims of a stolen election. Donald Trump had his days in court to challenge the results. He was within his rights to seek those judgments. In the United States, law-abiding citizens have those tools for pursuing justice. He lost in the courts, just as he did at the ballot box. And in this country, that's the end of the line. But for Donald Trump, that was only the beginning of what became a sprawling, multi-step conspiracy aimed at overturning the presidential election, aimed at throwing out the votes of millions of Americans, your votes, your voice in our democracy, and replacing the will of the American people with his will to remain in power after his term ended. Donald Trump was at the center of this conspiracy. And ultimately, Donald Trump, the President of the United States, spurred a mob of domestic enemies of the Constitution to march down the Capitol and subvert American democracy. Any legal jargon you hear about seditious conspiracy, obstruction of an official proceeding, conspiracy to defraud the United States boils down to this. January 6th was the culmination of an attempted coup, a brazen attempt, as one writer put it shortly after January 6th, to overthrow the government. The violence was no accident. It represents Senate Trump's last stand, most desperate chance to halt the transfer of power. Now, you may hear those words and think, this is just another political attack on Donald Trump by people who don't like him. That's not the case. My colleagues and I all wanted an outside independent commission to investigate January 6th, similar to what we had after 9/11. But after first agreeing to the idea, Donald Trump's allies in Congress put a stop to it. Apparently, they don't want January 6th investigated at all. And in the last 17 months, many of those same people have tried to whitewash what happened on January 6th, to rewrite history, call it a tourist visit, label it legitimate political discourse. Donald Trump and his followers have adopted the words of the songwriter, "Do you believe me or your lying eyes?" We can't sweep what happened under the rug. The American people deserve answers. So I come before you this evening, not as a Democrat, but as an American who swore an oath to defend the Constitution. The Constitution doesn't protect just Democrats or just Republicans. It protects all of us, we the people. And this scheme was an attempt to undermine the will of the people. So tonight, and over the next few weeks, we're going to remind you of the reality of what happened that day. But our work must do much more than just look backwards. The cause of our democracy remains in danger. The conspiracy to thwart the will of the people is not over. There are those in this audience who thirst for power but have no love or respect for what makes America great: devotion to the Constitution, allegiance to the rule of law, our shared journey to build a more perfect union. January 6th and the lies that led to insurrection have put 2.5 centuries of constitutional democracy at risk. The world is watching what we do here. America has long been expected to be a shining city on the hill, a beacon of hope and freedom, a model for others when we are at our best? How can we play that role when our house is in such disorder? We must confront the truth with candor, resolve, and determination. We need to show that we are worthy of the gifts that are the birthright of every American. That begins here, and it begins now, with a true accounting of what happened and what led to the attack on our Constitution and our democracy. In this moment, when the dangers of our Constitution and our democracy loom large, nothing could be more important. Working alongside the public servants on this dais has been one of the greatest honors of my time in Congress. It's been a particular privilege to count as a partner in this effort and to count as a friend the gentlewoman from Wyoming, Ms. Cheney. She's a patriot, a public servant of profound courage, of devotion to her oath and the Constitution. It's my pleasure to recognize Ms. Cheney for her opening statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and let me echo those words about the importance of bipartisanship and what a tremendous honor it is to work on this committee. Mr. Chairman, at 6:01 p.m. on January 6th, after he spent hours watching a violent mob besiege, attack, and invade our Capitol, Donald Trump tweeted, but he did not condemn the attack. Instead, he justified it. These are the things and events that happen, he said, when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who've been badly and unfairly treated for so long. As you will see in the hearings to come, President Trump believed his supporters at the Capitol, and I quote, "We're doing what they should be doing." This is what he told his staff as they pleaded with him to call off the mob, to instruct his supporters to leave. Over a series of hearings in the coming weeks, you will hear testimony, live and on video, from more than half a dozen former White House staff in the Trump administration, all of whom were in the West Wing of the White House on January 6th. You will hear testimony that, quote, "The president did not really want to put anything out calling off the riot or asking his supporters to leave." You will hear that President Trump was yelling and, quote, "really angry at advisors who told him he needed to be doing something